Hello, I'm Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. In this special edition of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children, we've invited our guests to join us here at the Children's Services Council offices. Transitioning out of high school can be one of the most exciting times in a student's life. Post-secondary options can seem limitless. College, career, technical school, the military. Then there's the question of financial aid opportunities. The free application for federal student aid known as FAFSA. What is it? What's available? To whom? For how long? That's why it's important to tap into as much relevant information and resources as possible at the beginning of the process. Luckily, Broward County Public School students have access to their school counselor, also known as the guidance counselor, who's supported by Broward Advisors for Continuing Education staff, known as Broward Advisors. Here to share important information on financial aid, admission requirements, and more are Ralph Aiello, Director of School Counseling and Broward Advisement, and Carol López, Supervisor of College and Career Readiness, both with Broward County Public Schools. Later in the program, we will also hear from Alexia Bridges, one of our colleagues here at CSC, who as a parent recently went through the process of applying for colleges and student aid for her daughter Malia, now a freshman at Florida A&M. Welcome to the two of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for making the trek to our office.
Appreciate being here.
So Ralph, I want to start with you because, you know, there's all of, as I mentioned, you have school counselors, you have Broward Advisors, you have psychiatrists, you're trying to navigate your way through the school, you're trying to navigate your way through where are you going after school. So can you please give an overview of kind of how that department is structured and what's going on?
Sure. So every student in Broward County Public Schools has a school counselor. Some schools are broken down by grade level, some are by alphabet, but every student has their own counselor. In addition, every school has a Broward Advisor, which typically focuses a lot on the seniors, the 12th graders who are getting ready to do that post-secondary transition, but they also work a lot with the 11th graders and the underclassmen as well. We also are trying the best we can to mobilize our community to support our students, because no matter what we do, we'll never be able to hire enough counselors and Broward Advisors to meet the needs of 270,000 students. So we're also making sure that we bring in our partners in the community, such as the Children's Services Council, the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, and so on and so forth. Because it is a very complicated and challenging process to be able to navigate, understanding their academic component, the application process, financial aid, even how to get yourself to the college and be able to find the supports that you need can oftentimes be a barrier of success. So we make sure that we put all the right resources in place, including helping students help their friends and their peers, because a lot of times the students they'll listen to their friends a whole lot more than they'll listen to the adults. So we're making sure that we also put in a new program going forward called the Broward Cadets that's going to help the students become ambassadors for college and career readiness, and they can help their peers as well. So, and all the other mental health practitioners, such as the social workers, the psychologists, our school nurses, they are also there to support with social and emotional needs, because it's not just about students having the right credits, grades, and test scores on their transcript. It's making sure that they have all of the social and emotional skills that they need to be successful going forward.
So we really want to make sure that parents understand that all of this is available. But I think it is important for them also to recognize just what that student to counselor ratio is like, so that they can do a little advocacy too. So can you, and also understand why it may take a while for their child to get through to that counselor. So roughly, what are we talking about?
I certainly appreciate that question. The American School Counselor Association national model recommends a 250-to-1 student to counselor ratio. In the state of Florida and in Broward County, it's approximately 500-to-1 or just under. And then when you consider the other duties as assigned that a lot of times our school counseling staff and other staff have to implement, such as testing and 504 and ESOL and lunch duty, bus duty, hall duty, it oftentimes will take up a significant portion of their time, making our caseloads even more inappropriate. So we definitely need our parents and our students to engage as much as possible and take advantage of the resources that we're going to talk about today, so they can become more self-sufficient in addition to the supports that we're able to provide.
Really important for them to realize that. And the more active they are, I mean, where a counselor may not have the time to do the specific outreach, if the parent is reaching out, that can make things a little bit easier, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Great. Carol, let's talk a little bit about, there's so many options. I listed a few of them in the opening, and that's kind of your focus, right? What happens after school, after high school?
Well, we want to make sure that kids are equipped with all of the resources to have a plan. You know, sometimes kids don't have the right resources. Many times parents themselves don't know where to go because some parents, you know, haven't gone through the process in the United States. So we want to make sure that everybody is on board and has our resources. So we know that students can, you know, either apply for college. What does that the college application look like? So many different types of aids for our students, no matter where they're from, immigrants or not. We have scholarships, local scholarships, actually centralized in one location, which is our Naviance program, which is huge. So it doesn't matter what school you're in, you're able to look, and actually the scholarships match you. So depending on, you know, your free and reduced lunch status, your GPA, your SAT score, it's like when you're driving, green means go. So those opportunities are available. So if you're looking at, you know, your Naviance account, you can see, oh wow, look at all of these scholarships available to me. And somebody right next to you may have different opportunities. When I talk to parents, I always like to say, use it as a leverage. You know, if your student is asking you to, you know, go out to a party or, you know, take the car out for the weekend, say, well, at least 3 of these, you know, you have to apply for this weekend for 3 scholarships because they are available. And many times we have, you know, we get emails from the different, you know, scholarship people saying, hey, we don't have enough people applying. So we want to make sure that students are looking at all those opportunities, knowing the resources. There is money available out there so that students don't have to pay for college, you know, doing the FAFSA as well. So we have so many opportunities for students to get expert and free help after school, on Saturdays. We're even working with BC on their FAFSA drives, and we do all kinds of presentations, not only on FAFSA, but financial aid in general, and where students can look for those options. And then there's also, you know, different career pathways as well. So some you know, career pathways don't necessarily mean that a student has to go to a 4-year college right after their certificate programs. And some of our schools actually are starting to offer those pathways while students are in school, you know, whether it be automotive or culinary. So, you know, students can actually go and say, okay, well, I can start this and then, you know, get the rest of my certification and go into an internship where they can start getting paid. And right here in our backyard, you know, working with aviation, marine, hospitality. We have, you know, construction. There's so many jobs out there. We just, you know, sometimes don't know. And when we talk to our students, they say, well, there's a lot, you know, I want to be a doctor or I want to be, you know, a lawyer. But in all of those professions, there's so many different opportunities and careers that students need to know, and parents need to know that too, you know?
Yeah, you know, we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely.
So if your exposure to different careers has been limited, you're not even thinking of those ideas. And that's something that the Brace Advisors help them think about?
Absolutely, and Carol mentioned our system, Naviance, and within the tool there are a number of assessments, not assessments like reading or math and science, but personality assessments. What are your interests? What are your values? What's your learning style? What's your personality type? And based on your results, it'll actually match you up with careers that people like you typically gravitate towards.
Oh wow, in my day I had to buy the big book
Not
and,
anymore.
you know, what
Right.
color is my parachute? And go through and fill out all those forms.
Everything is now online and in the cloud, and then once you get matched up with the career, you can research those careers in depth, what knowledge and skills and education. You can watch videos, how much money they make, from entry level up to master's level. You can even tell how much money you make in Fort Lauderdale versus Jacksonville within the system. And then it will match you up with the major that you need to get that job, which colleges offer that major, what scholarships you can get as well, and it also takes, as Carol mentioned, your SAT, your ACT, your GPA, and will tell you whether or not you're on track to get admission into that college or university, or on track for that scholarship as well. So it's a very personalized system.
That's phenomenal. Now, does everybody know how to access Naviance, or would it be worthwhile to remind them?
It certainly would be. Every student, every district school has Naviance in grades 6 through 12, so middle school and high school as well, because we recognize that students have to start preparing as early as possible to understand who they are and developing their goals and their plans, especially as students are taking a lot of high school courses in middle school. Right. And all students can access it via their single sign-on. So when students log into their portal at browardschools.com, it's one login and they're able to access any software system that we have in the district. Naviance is one of those tiles or that's on that launch pad. Parents also can have access to the system, so they get a code that they can enter into the system and they can follow along with their student to make sure that they are doing their research and they are taking their assessments. Now the parents are not able to take the assessments for their students.
That's good.
We don't want that.
And they're not able to say which what career their student is going to pursue or which college they're going to, but they can at least follow along and make sure that they're taking the necessary steps in order to prepare for those post-secondary options.
That's fantastic. And I want to go back to what you were talking about with the financial aid. I know even back in my day, which sadly was a long time ago, it was amazing how many people have set up scholarships for students based on an experience that they had. So it might be, you know, children of plumbers who suffered a terrible accident. And so they're really quite specific. So you shouldn't think, oh, there's nothing for me because of whatever reason. There may be something specific out there for you.
And they can do those searches on that system as well. So, you know, if they have, you know, there's left-handed scholarships, there's scholarships for first generation, scholarships for, you know, different minorities. So like you said, I mean, sky's the limit really when it comes to that. And we want to make sure that kids are not looking just at our local scholarships, but our national scholarships as well. And seeing, you know, putting in that data and finding out, you know, keeping track of it. So, you know, am I getting 500 here, 1,000 here? How much is this covering? And continuing to fill out scholarships. When I talk to students, they're like, oh, scholarships are not for me because my mom has, you know, the money, or I'm too low or whatever. But, you know, there's scholarships that are for technical programs and other, you know, and four-year universities. So again, it's a matter of researching, looking, and applying, because, you know, so many times kids will just look at something and then not follow through with the steps. So we want to make sure that it's not only accessing and knowing where the information is at, but also doing the extra step, which is actually applying and, you know, following through.
And just before we go listen to a real life experience, I just want to get back to FAFSA for a second, because that's the key, right? That's usually that's the first step that sets you up for everything else.
Absolutely. So the FAFSA is how families request funding through the federal government in the form of loans, grants, or work study. It is a free application. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete, depending on the family's ability to navigate the system. But if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, which about 60% of our seniors qualify for, we can pretty much guarantee that they're going to get some form of a grant, which is free money like a scholarship. On average, the Pell Grant last year was just under $4,000, and this year the maximum value is just about $7,000. Last year, our students left approximately $19 million on the table simply because they didn't apply for the FAFSA. They were eligible, and the money was there waiting for them. They just didn't ask for it. And in a lot of families, as Carol mentioned, believe that they're not eligible for free money. Well, you might not be eligible for free money, but the way that it works is that there's the cost of attendance at a school, which includes not just tuition and books, but where you're living, food, transportation, clothing, everything it takes to live in society. And then the FAFSA helps the government figure out how much money you actually have. And there's usually a gap that's in there. And the gap is filled with loans, grants, and work study. But even then, there's still typically another gap that's in there. And each institution, like the University of Florida, would give their own institutional aid to fill in that gap. So even if you don't qualify for the federal funds, you might also be qualifying for the institutional funds that are coming from the actual college. So it's very important for everybody to apply. And a lot of people say, well, right now, even then, I still don't qualify for anything. And I say, well, that's right now. Life can happen. You never know. There could be an illness, there could be accidents, people lose their jobs. And if you apply on time, the money is there waiting for you if you ever need it at some point in that school year. So we strongly, strongly encourage every single student and family to apply for the FAFSA, regardless of what they believe is their financial situation.
And if you don't believe us, we're going to hear from our own Alexia Bridges what her experience was like working with her brace advisor while navigating options for her daughter, Malia.
Our brace advisor was a new brace advisor here in Broward County. She was very informative when it came to choosing scholarships, financial aid, how to fill out the forms, and she also hosted workshops and email sessions to kind of help parents through the process of engaging and getting funding for our kids going to school. Well, right off the bat, she introduced us to a new program that the school board has in place called Naviance. And Naviance is a system that allows you to search for scholarships. It brings in the child's GPA and some other personal information to kind of give you a sense of what your child will qualify for. It just makes the process very easy when it comes to whittling down scholarships that are actually available to your child based on what they plan to major in, what schools they are looking to attend, and also giving a sense of their interests so that it can drive in more scholarships that are more personalized to their needs. So I really appreciated that, being someone that uses technology a lot for, different searches. It just feels good to have something that makes even parents who aren't so tech savvy be able to find those same opportunities for their seniors. She was very new to the system, so she emailed us pretty much on a daily basis. She emailed the kids as well, and she used Twitter to reach out to us on a very regular schedule. At least once a week, I would reach out to her via email based on something that I found, because I was very aggressive about finding funding and scholarships for my daughter. I would say that the overall process helped us because we were lost. We were lost in a field of where to start, where to begin, but we were able to, through Naviance and through, like I said, the sessions we had with the brace advisor, we were able to come in and get our FAFSA done on time. She alerted us of all deadlines that needed to be met in order to maximize the amount of money we received. And because of that, we were able to fund my daughter's freshman year with no problems. There were no shortages of covering her tuition and room and board. So I really appreciate the brace advisor at Plantation for all that she did to help us. I would definitely encourage them to heed the suggestions of visiting and applying for different scholarships, different colleges early. That was definitely beneficial to us because you get more opportunity to receive scholarships from the schools if you know early on where you're going. So that was very important. Keeping up with the GPA status and the entry requirements was also very important when it came to getting into the schools. We were afforded the opportunity to get waivers for the application, which is another part that we wouldn't have known anything about if it wasn't for the brace advisor. And she was actually responsible for issuing those waivers to the kids. And what the waiver does is it allows kids who don't have the $35 or the $50 admission fee, if they receive free or reduced lunch, they can get that fee waived in order to apply to several different colleges. Very positive. I would advise every parent to please reach out to your brace advisor, and if you have the opportunity, I would do it prior to senior year because they'll tell you exactly what days and what deadlines you need to meet prior to your child becoming a senior. The earlier you start, the better the opportunity to get, better results.
Wow, that's quite a testimonial, and we did not ask her to say any of that.
Well, that was phenomenal feedback, and definitely want to commend the very hardworking and dedicated BRACE advisors that we have out there in our school system. They are doing phenomenal work with our students.
Absolutely. So Alexia talked a lot about the communication, and so for parents who want to initiate that communication, how do they get in touch with the BRACE advisor?
Definitely contacting their school through their school counselor or BRACE advisor directly. You can also go to our website, browardschools.com/brace, and you can find information on all the things that were just spoken about, whether it's Naviance, college and career readiness, social emotional learning, or really any other piece of information that's necessary.
That's awesome. So we've talked a lot about college, but what are some of the other options available, and how do the BRACE advisors help with that?
I know we're using that term college very liberally here today, and most people think, well, not everybody's going to college. They think directly of a four-year university, but you know, 65% of all the jobs in the state of Florida require some form of a credential after high school, but that's whether it's a bachelor's degree, associate's, a certificate, or a license. And yes, a bachelor's is earned at a four-year university, sometimes at a community college, but the associate's is at a community college. You can get certificates and licensures at like the Broward Technical colleges. So a college is anywhere you go to get some form of a post-secondary education. So we want to make sure it's very clear to everybody that they have to go to some form of a college to get those credentials.
But then the BRACE advisors are also helping with other things as well, correct?
Yep, and so they can also assist with resumes and finding careers. Our Career Technical Adult and Community Education, otherwise known as CTACE, also has a variety of programs and opportunities where students can get internships and get job placement and get support, especially in the high need areas in Broward County that Carol mentioned earlier, such as aviation and marine science and the health sciences. The amount of jobs that are out there are phenomenal, and they're very high paying, and they are available right now.
That's great. I want to take a bit of a turn now in our last couple of minutes, because I know that in Parkland at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, a lot of the parents and students are very concerned about what happens to their students who are getting ready to go to college now and have experienced this great trauma that has disrupted their education. We've talked a lot about the trauma and how it's affected them emotionally, but what is the school system doing to help them get back on track for their post-secondary education?
Certainly, and we recognize that this tragedy is impacting our families, our students, and our communities in a myriad of ways. Academically, a lot of our students who were not able to concentrate and focus on their studies have fallen behind. So at Douglas, we now have various credit recovery options during and after school day, and as well as now math labs, particularly with algebra and geometry, where students were not able to get the foundational skills that they needed at the end of the school year last year and even at the beginning of this school year, that we're now providing those extra resources and supports that they need in order to catch up on what they have missed in order to be back on track to get those grades that those students typically would earn. When it comes to their college applications, in most applications there is an essay component of it, and we certainly would encourage students to explain their situation. That's their way of getting their voice to that admissions officer so they can truly understand the whole picture of what is occurring. And we are also making sure that all of our seniors, when they graduate, that they're going to have some form of a plan after graduation. And then we're going to be reaching out to those colleges, again, whether it's technical, community, or university, to let them know that we have Marjory Stoneman Douglas students attending their institution so they can get continuous support. Because once they walk out our door, we don't want to make sure that they know that they have all the supports that they need, whether it's academically or socially and emotionally.
That's fantastic. And one last quick thing, we have about a minute left. You talked earlier about, you know, the ratios that we have in the schools for the BRACE advisors, but you had mentioned to me that you might be doing sort of guerrilla warfare at different schools, if you will, in a good way.
Yep.
Do you see that coming in the coming year?
Absolutely. We're especially trying to use data appropriately, so we're identifying and targeting students for personalized interventions. We're even partnering with Broward College, where they just released their TRIO bus, mobile application unit, so we're actually plotting on a map where students are based on their free reduced lunch status, their GPA, their test scores, and rolling the bus into our communities to be able to take our efforts into where they actually are, so they don't have to always come to us. So we're definitely going to be working in more innovative ways going forward.
That's fantastic. I just love the innovation that you're doing and the ways that you're looking at supporting our students and really getting personal with them. It's fantastic. As we've heard, there's a lot to navigate when considering post-secondary school options. I want to thank Ralph Aiello and Carol López from the Broward County Schools and parent Alexia Bridges for helping us make some sense of the topic, and urge you, our viewers, to avail yourself of the many resources that you can find through the BRACE program. I've been your host, Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer. For this or any other episode of Future First, focus on Broward's children, go to our website, cscbroward.org, where you can access our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and remember to join us next time on Future First, focus on Broward's children.